up, Reefers? This is Jim from Saltwater Reef channel. How are you doing today? Sorry it's been a while, but I've been kind of busy with work and working on this tank and a few other tanks I have. And so it's time to give you an update on what's happening with the big 530-gallon tank. Just to give an overview of some people that don't know what tank this is a 530-gallon, it's going to be an LPS dominant tank. It is 10 feet long, 30 inches tall, and 34 inches wide. So we've had quite a bit going on for the last year. Last time we talked, I was having some nitrate problems and phosphate problems. There's no real cookie cutter how to set up one of these big tanks. I know a few people like Rico's Reef and Mark Paletta and all them are starting to do some big tanks also. But when I set this up about 3 years ago, there wasn't a how to set up a big tank and what all equipment you need for it. So from trial and error, I have kind of got everything under control now. We were having trouble with nitrates and phosphates. I mean, I had almost between 80 and 100 nitrates, and phosphates were above 1 something. And so I've spent the last year working on how to bring that back down. We added so I tried a couple of different things to bring it down. I did the sugar and vodka dosing, and that worked. It brought it down in the realm of about 5 points or so, but not what I needed for this tank. I was, like I said, between 80 and 100, and it was just, that was not going to do. I had biopellets running on this reactor, and that in itself brought it down some, but not enough to really get us back in the area that I needed to be in. I did try a Chaeto reactor, and that helped some too. But for this big tank, it still wasn't, 530 gallons, that's a lot of nitrates and phosphates. And I'm a heavy feeder, and I have, as you can see, a ton of fish in this tank. If you've seen them swimming around, we're probably almost at the max of the fish that I'm going to have in this tank. There's still a few more in quarantine around the house, and there's a few more for me to get if I can find them. So what I end up doing to solve my problem, and I've done it in the past, and it worked. I put up an algae scrubber. At first, we built a big algae scrubber with 2 sheets that I lit just the front, and that brought us from about 80 to 100 nitrates and down to around, I guess it was probably around 50. So we had made a dent in it when I did that. So I still need to come down farther. So I end up lighting the back side of the algae screen. I think the screens are 12 by 18 that I'm using. So I end up lighting the back side of the screen, and that brought us down from about 50 down to around the 25 mark. So I still was wanting to push it down farther because I do want to have LPS and maybe some SPS in the future. So I turned those from being the long wise 18 inches to now I turned them up and down so that I could get a third one in, and that third one another 12 by 18, and now the third one has brought us down in the realms of we are now down to about I think we're selling somewhere between 9 and 12 right now. Now one of my lights from my algae reactor has gone out, so I'm having to replace that, and I think we'll be able to get it down even lower. The other thing I did was I added about probably 250 pounds of rock to a refugium that I have out in the garage. That was another thing I did to help with the nitrates and phosphates, and that has really helped. My phosphate in the last reading, we had gone from about over 1 something down to we're now about 0.35. And I think that will go down farther when I get the lights on the algae scrubber replaced. So that's been a pretty good thing. I also cut back a little bit on my feeding. I don't feed as much of the pellets, and I don't feed flake food, and have gone to more of the frozen and romaine algae or lettuce, and just normal shrimp and things like that that I can get at the seafood market to help feed the fish. So a little bit more away from the processed foods to more organic and more natural foods. So that's kind of where I've been. So what's the plan for the future? So above the tank, I have some homemade LED lights that I built for a 180-gallon tank. They have worked well for about 3 years. Now that we're starting to add the coral to the tank, I've got the bio load up with all the fish, and I'm starting to add the coral to the tank. It's time to get the lighting situated going. So based on what I've seen, and I'm going to kind of follow the Worldwide Coral LPS one, and we are going to be installing 12 XR15 Radeon Pros over this tank. There might be some other lights planned too, but we'll see how that comes out after I get the 4 lights over each. There'll be 4 lights over each section. There's 3 sections on this tank, and see how that goes. If I still want a little bit more blue and stuff like that, I might add a strip of reef brights to the VHO reef brights to the tank just for some extra pop. But that's for that. So the next part is, now that I'm starting to add coral, it's time to start bringing up the dosing and all that. Now I've been dosing Kalkwasser for about 3 months now, and I'm using one of the simple BRS dosers, 1 mil dosers, and right now we pretty much have it running 16 to 18 minutes on the half-hour cycle. So I almost believe I could run it just non-stop, 1 drop or 1 mil every minute, and just let it run around the clock. Now I'm in the process of, I've already bought a calcium reactor, and I'm in the process of buying the last few things for the calcium reactor, and I'll be installing that in the near future because I do have corallina starting to grow on the tank or on the rocks, and I have found that the LPS corals are now starting to survive. They're not thriving yet, but they're surviving. Before they would go in, they would be good for about a week, and then they would start to just wither away. So that's where we are with that. So calcium reactors coming next. Oh, fish. There's a lot of fish in this tank. I don't even know what the count is. I'm going to make another video of me feeding them all, and in that video there will be a fish list of what I currently have, what I have in QT, and what I plan to get still that I'm still don't have for this tank. What I've got in QT, there's some fish that are pretty cool that I would say it would be hard for even some aquarium guys to have, public aquariums to have. So that will be kind of coming up. I just added an Achilles tang to the tank. It's been in here for 4, maybe 5 days now. The powder blue doesn't really care for it, but he is getting along. The Achilles tang is bigger than the powder blue, and has decided that he does want to be in the tank, and so you might see him dash out and the powder blue to be around him. See right there. It's getting better. It's not perfect right now, but I think within another week or 2, they won't be an issue. So that's in there. We've added some golden angels to the tank, some rhomboid, a trio of rhomboid wrasses, a multi-bar angel. There is a diamond tail flasher wrasse in here now, Maneko wrasse, a magma wrasse. So I guess if you have any questions on what all fish are in here, you can watch the feeding video that I'll be doing next, and you'll be able to, I'll have the list of all the fish. Now, I have a new tank I'm going to put up. I'm trying to shut down some tanks, and I'm going to put up, resurrect my old first saltwater tank, and it's a 75 gallon. And it's going to be done with an interesting plan of doing like a harem tank, but not clowns. We'll show you in the near future what that's going to be. So that one, I'm going to try to take you through the whole build for that one. And show you what I'm going to do for that tank build. And so that's kind of where we've been. I've fought pretty hard to get the fish to survive and do better in the tank. Now that I've got the nitrates and phosphates in the tank more stabilized, I'm not seeing things like ick outbreak or marine velvet outbreak. There are a little tiffing going on, but you know, that's going to happen in a big tank with, I think there's 7 tangs now in this tank, 3 big angels, and I believe there's 5 dwarf angels in this tank now. Some good news is that in the tank there is a pair of orange dash wrasses. Not a real common fish to the thing, but I bought them as 2 females. And now one is changed, and he's the turquoise blue one that you'll see dashing around. He's pretty good size. He's actually bigger than Lineatus. And right here is the female one right here, orange dash wrasse. And there's the male right there. You can. They're now spawning every morning in the tank at around somewhere between 9 and 11 o'clock. Real interesting. They put on a pairing show where they swim in parallel with each other, and you can tell because as soon as they actually splash at the surface, they disappear, and all the rest of the wrasses now then begin to eat or look like they're pecking at food. So that's happening every morning. The other interesting thing happening is I have a pair of hippos. One is a yellow belly hippo and one is a regular hippo back there. Their names are Zig and Zag. And they have just started spawning at night in this tank. So somewhere between around 9 to 10:30 at night, they put on their pairing show and start doing their swimming and showing off at night for everybody to see. And they, again, as soon as they spawn in the tank, the wrasses all start to pick at the eggs that are floating in the water column. So that's kind of the exciting news. There's a number of other ones that could be paired up in here, so we'll just have to see how it goes. There's a rhomboid trio. There are 4 flame wrasses in here. There's golden head sleeper pair in here. There are 2 golden angels, the bigger one and a smaller one, so we'll see how that goes. But that's how it's doing. I'm pretty positive on how the tank is coming along. Like I said, now that the fish load is almost done, it's time to start working on the corals. And what you see will be eventually covered in LPS corals, I like hammers, torches, elegances, and frog spawns, and all the movement that the LPS corals have. I think I might have to watch out for the non-stinging ones like the Duncans, the Scullies, the open brains, and all that. I believe my blueface might have a little bit of a nibbling complex on those kind of corals. So that might go in the new tank. Those things might go in the new tank, and this may stick with the the LPS corals that are more of a stinging style coral, which might end up including plate corals, maybe a bubble coral or something like that. So, yeah, so I think I'll let you guys watch the fish for a little bit. This is a ruler down here, a 12-inch ruler, so you can see how big the fish are in the tank. So if you have any questions, just ask. Also like and subscribe. I'm trying to grow the channel. I'm going to start trying to put out more videos in the near future, okay? Thanks a lot.